Well, for more, let's speak now to Sinan Ciddi. He's a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defence of Democracy and joins us from Washington, D.C. Great to have you on the show. So, Ekrem Imamoglu is often referred to as President Erdogan's main political rival. But how much of a challenge would he actually pose if he runs in the next presidential election in 2028?
So thanks for having me. It's unclear now simply because we just don't know. It's a counterfactual. We don't actually know what damage he will do if he could successfully defeat Erdogan. But clearly Erdogan was worried enough to essentially, ban him or take extraordinary measures through the judiciary to essentially curtail his ability to stand as a candidate. And as a result of that, I think he was very worried about the possibility of him being declared the actual presidential candidate for the main opposition party. And he basically nipped it in the butt, basically by ensuring that ahead of today's primary election for the CHP, Imamoglu was incarcerated. So he was worried enough to take extraordinary measures.
Tell us, how long could it take before his case actually goes to trial?
Yeah, that is a really difficult question to answer, because this is not the first time that we've essentially seen, opposition figures who have come close to challenging Erdogan, or whom Erdogan has been worried about successfully challenging him for the presidency, from being jailed. If you look at somebody like, for example, another person, Selahattin Demirtas, one of the leaders of the pro-Kurdish Dem Party, which was then known as the HDP. He was essentially jailed like Imamoglu, and his trial took a considerable amount of time before they essentially convicted him. So these things basically very much depend on essentially the sort of political willpower of the Erdogan government and the judiciary, which seems to be taking its cue from the government in terms of when they will actually prosecute him, such that they actually convict him on charges, which most people, I think, assume that have already been predetermined against him.
Now, Sinan, hundreds of thousands of people have been out on the streets of Turkey again. What does that tell us about the depth of public discontent in Turkey?
Yeah, I think it tells us a lot, actually. This is the first mass public protest movements across the country that we've seen in Turkey since the Gezi protests of 2013, 12 years ago. But this time, I think it's slightly different, because what you're looking at is a population that is really on a knife's edge, both economically and in many cases politically. People, I'm assuming, and based on sort of their activism right now, appear to be in a position where they don't fear they have much to lose anymore by standing up to Erdogan. They are much, much poorer. The rate of inflation, joblessness, and high prices, and very high consumer prices in Turkey has crippled and broken the back of the Turkish government population. If they now feel that they're going to essentially not even be able to be in a position to translate those frustrations into an alternative political or presidential candidate whom they feel that can lead the country in a better direction, then that's what helps me account for why we're starting to see such a huge backlash against Erdogan's decision, or the government's decision, to incarcerate Imamoglu. But on top of that, also, this is just essentially, they feel powerless otherwise, that if they just essentially continue to let business carry on as usual, that they will have more to lose.
Great to have your insights, Sinan. Unfortunately, your image froze for us, but we could hear you perfectly, and it was awesome to have your insights on the show today. Sinan Ciddi, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies in Washington, D.C. Take care.